from the, I was talking about the DARPA's space station out in space, but I want to clear some stuff up on this technology that's being used at some of the Air Force bases. I'm not going to get into Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, but I will get into Nellis, where I worked, and I saw some of the test craft that they were testing before they went to flying saucer technology. They were testing rocket flying saucers, and I call them Maryland's flaming tuna cans because they have fire coming out of them. They were prototypes of the flying saucers, the plutonium flying saucers they're using now at Nellis. Ben Rich also was the president of Lockheed Corporation and worked with Skunk Works, and he was no person to play around with. He was not a bullshit artist, and he said there are two types of flying saucers, man-made and extraterrestrial, and he called the extraterrestrial ones unfunded opportunities. Okay, I worked at Nellis Air Force Base for better than 12 years. And I set the record straight on flying saucers. I've seen them where I worked. I've actually seen some of them when they're disassembled. And these flying saucers that I was talking about in this constellation, I didn't get into the constellation, but where this DARPA project was going on with this DARPA space station I was talking about in this antimatter galaxy, where they manufacture some of these elements that fly some of these flying saucers that have been flying in the U.S. And they're nothing more than small annihilation reactors, okay, in these saucers. And they're basically small particle beam accelerators. They're particle accelerators. And these flying saucers are using an element 115 in these craft. And these element 115 basically is bombarded with protons, and it changes its count to 116, okay? When this changes its count to 116, it starts decaying immediately. It turns back to 115, but what happens when it's decaying, it's emitting small amounts of antimatter. And this antimatter is going through a tuned tube, and it basically is producing spontaneous fission, folks. Not fusion, but fission. This antimatter particles are interreacting with the gaseous matter target in the reactor. And when it goes down into this tube, the antimatter has a charge and a spin in the opposite of matter, and it causes annihilation effect, explosion, folks. That's how this flying saucer feels. Another thing I add about it, the reason why they use antimatter to fuel this, using antimatter basically to create this effect. And basically, in conventional physics, the gravity A wave cannot be accessed through any other way. But they've been able to access this gravity A wave past the perimeter of the atom using this antimatter reactor system I'm telling you about. And they use antimatter for two things: to propel the craft to go into outer space and to access the gravity A wave. That can, no way in conventional physics can you access the gravity A wave except through a strong gravitational field that this antimatter reactor is producing. These flying saucers that fly around at Nellis and Area 51 and S4, I worked up at Tonopah Test Range for better than 12 years. I have an education in engineering, and I know about the stuff. I worked on some stuff, and these are real flying saucers. They have gravity amplifiers on them and waveguides on them, and these gravity amplifiers are focused onto the planetary system they want to go. They have different amplifiers. Basically, normally they're focused into space basically, and when they're focused up on space, they're actually horizontal like this. The gravity amplifiers are facing upwards. They'll be actually facing for actually almost straight up for space travel. It's kind of like, here's the saucer, it's on its side. The gravity amplifiers are focused up into space, and they pull the fabric of space back to you. These gravity amplifiers do, and then when they focus on the area they want to go, they run the react up to full power, and then you're at that destination. This is annihilation, folks, or effect. The power is unbelievable. The power transfer from a flying saucer with the antimatter reactor is incredible. I just want to share that little information. The antimatter that they're synthesizing here on Earth, they can't really do much with it, so they went to plutonium. The plutonium they can manufacture here, you don't get the same space travel effect with plutonium reactor systems, but the antimatter is what they're using in outer space right now in this antimatter galaxy I was explaining. Some of this materials come from this antimatter galaxy I went over. They're manufacturing it there. It grows there. It's the natural habitat for this planetary inner space place. What I was talking about is where it's coming from. It's not coming from Zeta Reticuli. It's coming from this antimatter galaxy that DARPA's been studying and watching over for a while. That's where these ETs grays are coming from. Okay, these are small. They're small annihilation reactors and flying saucers. The reason why they don't keep doing it all the time, it's hard to synthesize these elements on Earth, so they went to plutonium. It's easier to deal with. You don't get the same speed and the same power effect, but these flying saucers, I worked with those for a while. I've seen some of these plutonium saucers have crashed. I haven't seen the antimatter ones crash. I saw the plutoniums when they crashed when I worked at Nelli, okay? There's no doubt. So I'm going to sign out a little bit. The video, like I said, I'm relating the flying saucer technology at Nellis Air Force Base or Area 51 or S4, all that type of technology. I work at TTR. I had nothing to do with S4 or any of that. I just basically worked at TTR, and I saw some of these spacecraft being tested where I was at. I saw them flying around when I was working there all the time. Saw them crash in the desert. So I worked there. I know what's going on. But this other scientist, this other guy from was talking about it to me, and he did stuff with an NRO, and he's friends with a guy that works on the celestial navigation in space. I went into that. These elements are coming from outer space and these antimatter galaxies. They're getting this from these areas, and they're coming crashing here. But I'm signing out. Hope the video is somewhat informative. Bill signing. Hope the video was good. I'm signing out. Peace, love, and happiness. Enjoy your evening, folks.